おー。
1時40分ぐらいまでかかった。で、これをこうして、こうして、こうして、こうして、こうして、はい。ということで、今日も始まりました。ちょっと土日ね、僕らそっちがね、お忙しいとのいうことでしたんで、
はい。
今回はちょっとね、ちょっと早めに
はい。
お送りしていこうと。てかこれ日本語パッチなかったっけかな。まあ別に英語僕は言ってもまあ、ある程度は聞けるけども、ただこれ日本語ないと割ときつい気がするんだけど、ちょっと待って。ちょっと待ってね。
はい。
やっぱ日本語がもっとあったわ。ちょっと一旦ゲームを落とします。日本語がもっとがね、ちゃんとね、存在するので、まずそれを入れます。
おー。
まずはこいつを。ウェルスをスキャンしています。で、これをこうして、多分ね、このゲームはね、僕の役よりもね、ちゃんとしたね、人がやってる役をやった方がちゃんと意味が伝わると思うのでね。
おー。
僕的にはそっちの方がね、いいなぁと
なるほど。
思っている次第でございますんで、ちょっとお待ちください。よし。で、んよし。んで、はい。お待たせをいたしました。ザ・ビギナーズ・ガイド。まあ、僕は一回やってるんで、一回やってるというか、
うん。
まあ、エンディングまで僕は見てるんですけども、まあ、やっていこうかなということで、まあ、基本僕は内容については喋れないっていこうかな。喋っちゃうから多分。 ちょっと内容について僕はあんまり話さないでいこうかなと思います。
ちなみにご質問なんですけど、
うん。
コード通して配信見てる時って音は出せない。
音入ってないこれ。
いや、これずっとね、前からね、ずっとね、ディスコードでね、配信見てる時に音、ね、出てないんだよ。
マジ？
まあ、携帯から見てるからかもしれないけど。
ああ、まあそれはあるかもし多分ね、配信、つべの配信だと音入ってる。ちょっと待って。うん、多分ね、そうだね。まあ、上にね、字幕出てるからね。
うん。
ちょっと待って、カウント高え。まあ今回はこの喋ってる人とコーダっていうまあ人がまあ主人公じゃないけど登場人物はその2人だけです。まあ上の字幕をとりあえず読んどいてくれればいいかな。
What was going through his head as he was building this? This is what I like about all of Coda's games. I mean, not that they're all fascinating as games, but that they are all going to give us access to their creator. I want us to see past the games themselves. I want to get to know who this human being really is. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. So, it's 2008. Coda starts making these games, and he never
一番最初の
he doesn't put them onto the internet. He
時
just
からずっと
makes
音
them
な
and
しだ
then
わ。
immediately
配
abandons
信の。
them, and they sit on his computer
そう、
forever.
ディスコード通して
And I
見て
think
る
he really
時の音
understood
ね。
this image of himself as a recluse.
携帯のせいかな。
At one point, he jokingly renamed his computer's
まあ、
recycling
俺のせい
bin
かもしれ
to
ないけど。
important games folder.
ま
So, you know, this was just how he
あ、
worked.
あと
He
めちゃ
tended
くちゃ
to
音
crank
が
them
ちっ
out
ちゃい可
one
能性あ
after
る。
the other without even really pausing to try to understand what he had just made. Until suddenly one day, he just stopped.
Stop.
In 2011, that was it. He made his last game, and then he hasn't made another one since. And that's why I've taken this opportunity to gather all of his work together, is because I find his games powerful and interesting, and I'd like this collection to reach him, to maybe encourage him to start creating again. And if the people like you who play this also happen to find his work interesting, then I'm sure it'll just send that much stronger of a message of encouragement to Coda. So thanks for joining me on this. If you have a particular interpretation that I haven't mentioned here, or if you just need to get in touch, you can email me at daveyWreden@gmail.com. Okay, that's about it for introduction. Let's take a look at Coda's first proper game. As each game is loading, I'll show you the date that it was completed. His first one was made in November
ゲームを何個か
2008.
作っていて、
そうそうそう。
なんかそれをプレイヤーにやらせることを通してなんか作り始めさせたいみたいな話とかね。
そういうこと。おう。
はあ。これが2008年
の作品
に作った
And it's one of the more
ゲー
generic games you'll see from Coda.
通れねって。
You can click to fire the gun.
でもちゃんと銃撃てる。
うん。
Security code breached. Hostile alien life forms inbound.
It kinda looks like this game was abandoned mid-development. For instance, you have this gun, which you'd think would indicate that there are supposed to be monsters or enemies somewhere, but then clearly there are no enemies anywhere. You can't even reload the gun when you run out of bullets. But ultimately, we don't really know. Maybe Coda thought that actually it was complete the way that it is. And I think that we should talk about his games for what they are, rather than for what they're not.
Enemy force neutralized. Begin shield activation.
わ
I love how you can see the bottom of the universe from this room.
迷路です。
Apparently, this space station has a
迷
labyrinth
路。
on it.
うん。
Sure, I don't know. There's really no reason for it that I've ever been able to discern, so in the interest of time, I'm just gonna skip you on past it.
ああ、飛ばされた。
Okay, this is the part that's interesting. The game has this narrative about the whisper machine and how it has to be turned off, and then you get to the engine room.
これやな。
Hey, you there,
Oh.
in the engine room. You could save us all. That beam is powering a whisper machine. We could disrupt it by introducing a great enough heat signature. If your body could stop the beam. It's so much to ask, but for all of our lives, would you do it? Could you give yourself?
あ、来ましたね。
ああ、もうこれ行かなきゃいけないやつじゃないですか、もうこれ。
ああ、ああ。
いきなり終わった。保守的性が一つ。
This is not a branching point, unfortunately. The only option is to step into the beam.
ふうふう。これ待ってたら言わないかな。なんか。
まあ入るしかないんじゃない？
言わないな。横になるんだ
Pause
な
here。for a second. What you just experienced, stepping into the beam and then dying, is probably what Coda had initially intended when he was developing this level. But when he first compiles and plays it, something goes wrong. There's a bug somewhere. And this is what happens instead.
ちょっと待って。よし。お。ああ。
なんか上に座れてますが。
The beam causes you to start floating. And this is an important moment for him. Because yes, this is technically a glitch, but Coda identifies something human about it. Like how small it makes you feel in the face of this larger chaotic system. Or this floating could be the afterlife, a peaceful place, juxtaposed against all of the hysteria that you've just had to traverse. I don't even know. I have no idea what he was thinking, but what's clear is that after making this, something lodges itself in his brain. He wants to do more of these really weird and experimental designs. So he stops work on this and moves on to a stream of tiny little games that go in all sorts of directions. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first game he made after leaving this one behind.
っていうね。
うん。
なるほどねっていう。
今、なんかバグが起こったこときっかけになんか、
そうそう。
あれこれ考えるんだけど、なんか
まあ、僕は何も言わないよ。あ、動かないんだけど。あ、え
Yep. In this
Oh.
game, you can only walk back.
後ろになって歩かなきゃダメなんだって。横にも動けないって。
So it's a short and relatively minimalist experiment combining motion and narrative.
お
It is less advanced than the previous game, but actually it seems to be more focused, more complete. Code is trying to give it a unique voice rather than simply basing it on a pre-existing trope.
しかし未来は見えなかった。おう。ああ。本当はね、これやりながら見た方が
うん。
いいと思うけど。まあ。おう。ないです。
It's a short little thought, it says what it wants to say, and then it ends. Didn't need anything more than that.
あ
Which to me is why it works, because it gets out quick. Okay, next one.
よし。何もありません。ありました。あ、こっちは何もね。
And that's it. Okay, the meaning of this game won't be clear just yet. Please be patient with me for a few more games, and I promise you'll see
今の
what
が
makes
2
it
つ目
interesting.
で、
そうっす。
ゲームというかわからんけど、まあ、
Oftentimes, Coda would put bizarre
Let's
titles
put
like
them.
this one at the start of his games. I wish I'd known him at the time that he was making these early games. He would really only talk to me about his work as he was making it.
で
Once he stopped work on a game, like, that was it. It was dead to him. And I don't agree with that at all, but what are you gonna do?
これだけしかありません。
うん。
I know it's tempting, but there's actually nothing over here. Sorry.
ソーリー言われちった。
Once you've been slowed to an absolute crawl, the door at the top of the stairs opens. So why, if Coda's not showing these games to anyone, why bother opening the door at all? Well, to show you, I'm modifying the game here so that when you press enter, it'll bring you back up to full speed so you can enter the door for yourself.
おお。わあ。
A room that's warm and nice and filled with little ideas for games.
アイディアがすごいことやってね。
いっぱいある。
Coda would often tell me that he didn't mind if people thought of him as cold or distant. He said that he knew that he was actually a vibrant and compassionate person, but that it takes time to really see that. It can be a very slow climb to get there.
.今のが3つ目ね。
ということで、次のゲーム。なんもない。なんもない。
Well, this is new for Coda. It's an actual puzzle. Go ahead and see if you can solve it.
これパズル。
ないんですね。
あ、この中には何もない。
けど、外にもなんもないんだよ、あれしか。
うん。
で、どうするのかっていうと、こう。
Don't forget that solution, because we're going to see this puzzle again soon. We're gonna see it a lot. So that seems to be it, right? You walk down a corridor, you solve a puzzle, you get to the end. Simple enough. Alright, now I'm going to modify the game again so that when you press enter, it'll remove all of the walls from this room.
わ。
おー。広いね。
How about that? There was more to it than we had any way of knowing. I actually find it funny that this game comes after the Stairs game since they essentially convey the opposite idea. So, in the Stairs game, a dull exterior concealed a rich interior. And then, in this level, a dull interior hides this fantastic outer world. Either way, I think that the point is the same, is that most of the time you don't get to know what you're missing, or even that you're missing anything. That's not your role as a player. So if your role here is not to understand, then what is it?
ちょっと待ってね。
Aha. So, this, combined with the entering game from earlier, tells us that Coda believes his games are connected somehow. It could even be that the stairs game and the puzzle game are literally connected in between this and the entering game. There's a bigger picture that all of his games are meant to play a role in, some larger meaning that we won't be able to grasp until we've seen all of them. And once we have, we can step back and start to understand what exactly that bigger picture is.
なんかあるな。
なんかね、うん。
Let's talk about video game development for a second. Every video game runs on what's called an engine, which determines what the game can and cannot do. So in other words, the engine is a set of tools for game development. To make all of these games, Coda is using an engine called Source.
このソースエンジン
Like
って
all
いうのが
engines, Source has certain things that it does well, and it has certain
ポ
things
ー
that
タ
it
ル
does
って
poorly.
いう謎
One of
解
the
きゲーム
things that it
Steam
does
にあるん
very
だけ
well
ど、
is
あ
boxy
あれ
linear
のエンジンと
corridors.
一緒っていう。
That's why so many of Coda's games are set in these large, flat, empty rooms, is just because he's working with what the engine
わり
does
かし
well.
こう軽くて、まあちょっと低スペックなパソコ
The
ンでも
tools
動く
available
くら
to
い
the
な軽
creator
さがある。
shape what kinds of creative work they're going to end up making. You might consider paying attention to the architecture in Coda's games to notice how they seem to stem from an engine that's very good at producing
確かに
linear
直線的なん
boxy
だよね。
corridors.
そうだね。まで見てきたやつは大体確かに。
これもそうだしね。おお、トイレは行ける。もうないね。ここだけだね。おお。
あ
あれー。お。お。うい。もうちょっとね、展開早めるためにさっさと落ちてきますけどね。
空中に浮いてたのってことね、全部。
そういうことですね。で、何かね、ありますよねっていう。おお
This prison, funny enough, in Coda's original design, the doors stayed shut for a full hour before letting you go. If you don't mind, I think we're gonna skip that.
待ってみます。何も言わん。ああ
This is something that he and I used to argue about a lot. You know, whether a game ought to actually be playable, whether it means anything if no one can get through it. And I would always defend that, you know, all this work goes into the game, why not make it playable and accessible? And so we just got into heated arguments over it, and there was one time that after one of these conversations, he went home, and a day or two later, he sent me a zip file entitled Playable Games that was full of hundreds of individual games, each of which was just an empty box that you walked around in and nothing else. Believe me, I played every single one of those just to find out if there was like a gag hidden somewhere. There wasn't.
何もなかったか。
うん。
It's the puzzle again, with the exact same solution as the last time.
だからね
There's still no clear indication of what makes this puzzle so special that Coda is going to return to it over and over. But I promise I'll share with you my interpretation very shortly.
まあまあまあ先行きましょうかね。
うん。
なんかいます。
うん。
そう、下のね
Here,
文
Coda
字をね
begins using a kind of dialogue system that
忙しい
deduces
け
out
ど
of the
ね。
engine's chat capabilities. Use the 1, 2, 3 buttons on your keyboard to respond.
何があったの？まあ2だね。
書いてある
2回本当に。
でも全部あったような気がするけど。
全部あった。
うん。
だ1にせようか、今回。
そのドアとスイッチのあるパズルを通過したさ。
そうだな。
それは反対にたどり着いたが。
カーブ、この文字がこう、どんどんこう、埋まっていくっていう。
うん。
私はどうしてねでしょう。さて、なんか知んないけど、カタンロール。また同じ部屋ですね。どれにする、
うん
どれにする
いや、まあ、僕とどうなる？
どうなるのにする？それで終わるっていう。永遠に下り続ける
And
さ
so we make one last descent down to the final floor of the level.
この滑らかなマウス操作ね。めっちゃ滑らかなマウス操作ね。おう。
It's a lamppost. Okay, I can't tell you quite why, but for some reason, Coda fixates on this lamppost. It's going to appear at the end of every single one of his games from here on out. I'll tell you what I think. I think that up to this point, you know, he's been making really strange and abstract games with no clear purpose, and maybe you can only float around in that headspace for so long. Because now he wants something to hold on to. He wants a reference point. he wants the work to be leading to something. He wants a destination, which is what this lamppost is. It's a destination. We're going to see it in the work as well. His games are just going to become a lot more cohesive, a lot more fully developed, with more of a clear idea behind them. And as we go, that idea will get clearer and clearer and clearer.
Mm-hmm. まあいい。まあ普通だと思うけどね、確かに。
So first off, I'm sure you can deduce this, but this game is not connected to the internet. All of the notes that you're going to see have been written by Coda. This was actually the first game of his that I ever played. This was shortly after I met him at a weekend game jam in Sacramento, where I grew up. I saw him working on this very level, and it was just so different from anything that anyone else was doing. So right away I was like, I have to be friends with this person. In retrospect, I think I was probably a bit too pushy, trying to get his attention. I was over-enthusiastic. But he was very gracious about it and very patient with me. And I cooled off eventually. Oh, feel free to skip over any of these notes if they're not doing anything for you. Nothing extra is going to happen if you read all of them. Either way, to me they convey a sense of loneliness. I see this person who's filled with thoughts and feelings and beliefs and has no way to express them except as scattered and unheard voices in a game that wasn't meant to be played. But it's ironic, isn't it, that in playing this game and seeing how alone Coda often felt, that we get to know him better and actually kind of connect with him. And I have to be honest with you, this idea is really seductive to me. That I could just play someone's game and see the voices in their head and get to know them better and have to do less of the messy in-person socializing. I could just get to know you through your work. I think this is why I always liked Coda's games so much, is because it felt like they let me have that connection. I felt as though he was inviting me personally into his world. And then I feel less lonely too.
まあこれが永遠とね、あるわけですよ。僕は一回めちゃくちゃ一生懸命読んだんだけど、まあ確かにその言った通りなのよね。で、こういうなんかね。
現代アート。現代アートに。
まあ、こういう書き置きがたくさんあって、
At the end of this level, we're going to see the puzzle again. And here, I'll tell you what I think the puzzle means. Each of these games represents an idea that was on Coda's mind at the time that he was making it. And the puzzle is a way of closing the door on a previous chapter of his life before moving on to the next one. In each of his games, after exploring a theme that, he might find difficult, Coda can then place this puzzle that he knows has a reliable solution, he understands exactly how it works, and so it gives him a simple mechanism for moving on. And because there's this dark area between the doors, a space between spaces, before you move on, you get to pause.
うん。
Just for a moment, a few seconds to reflect on and let go of the events that led you here. To step back and connect the pieces together. To grasp at that elusive bigger picture.
まあ個人的にちょっと僕が好きなシーンがそろそろ血がついてきたな。該当ありますね。
ありますね、回答が。
Okay, this one is tough. It's gonna kind of just spin its own wheels for a few minutes. Hang with it.
なかったよ。
ん
なんかありましたね。
うん。
なんかありますね。お
See, like, this is it,
okay.
the whole game. And there's nothing that's particularly interesting about it. You just walk to the end of a hallway. Except, for some reason, Coda gets really fixated on this prison that has all of this modern furniture. And I don't know why, but he decides he needs to revisit this prison. He's gonna start over, use the same assets, turn it into something else. Okay, cool. Here's version 2.
じゃあ何をこうかな。
まあテレビじゃない真ん中は。
F1 押してた。おお。何をこうか。
いや、それはもう、そんなもう、かまどに決まってるじゃないですか。かまど10個でしょ、もう。かまどじゃない。
じゃあどれにするんだい？
いやー、まあ、この中だったら、まあ、天窓かな。天窓がいいんじゃないですか。
天窓？
うん。うん。
うん。さあどれにする？
あ、テーブルって1935年に発明されたんだ。
本当かなどうかな？
いや、それ、単純に知らんかったなと思って。
これ本当の情報かな？
まあ、本当ではないだろうね。
うん。じゃあどれよく？
まあでも3。
3いく。
うん。
あ？おう。おう。
There's a bit more to this one, but still, it's not really communicating anything. It's kind of just weird for weirdness' sake. So, okay, he throws it out and starts over. This time he comes at the prison idea from a different direction.
あ、やり直すね。
おう。まずテーブルをクリックする。額縁に行って少しずらす。電気スタンドをオフにしてオンに戻す。左側のソファーに行き、少し奥に 最後に棚。なるほどな。
うん。
スタート地点に戻るよ。戻る。
戻る。
力強く戻る。
And of course, now the table is gone and you can't begin the chain of events to escape.
はい。
Here's a version where there are no bars, but you can't actually get to the well. And then a version where the inside of the prison is the outside and the outside is the inside. Let me just blink you real quick through a few more of these. I mean, he really unloaded on this prison. There's nearly a dozen of them. Personally, I think it's awful to watch this, to see a person basically unraveling through their work. And for what? Like, at what point do you just go, maybe there are game ideas other than this prison that I could be working on?
刑務所だ
But
ってます
Coda
ね。
doesn't have that voice telling you to stop. That particular mechanism of defense against
いけ
yourself.
ない。
Without it, you just spiral. And so he keeps going and going and going and going and going,
うん。
and then he hits on something. And he likes it. And that's it. He's done. He stops making prisons. This is the
刑務
very
所
last
作るだからなん
version of the
か
prison game that he created.
ひらめい
And
た
the
と。
reason I think it works is that the prison is not actually in it.
お。なんか出ましたね。
うん。なんちゃうかな。
そして、街灯と
うん。
公衆電話。
いや、公衆電話、最近少なくなったよな。
出してってるからね。
うん。
さあ、どれにする？
It's a conversation. And so this is what Coda wants, is to be able to talk to someone, to share what's on his mind, and to get some good advice from someone who knows. But the irony is that even in this scenario, you're still talking to
まあ
yourself.
でも、
You know, all
2
of
番
the
じゃないです
games
か。
so far are
2番いく？
talking to himself.
うんうん。
さあ、どれにする？
いや、まあでもちょっと恋しいかもしんないわ。なんかちょっとおしゃれだったし、普通に。
おしゃれ？
なんかおしゃれじゃなかった、ちょっと。
ああ、
なので、ちょっと、恋しいかもしれない。
2番で。
うん。うん。
さあ、どれだい？
うん。
ちょっと、
まあ1番
1番
かな。
さあ、
でも電話相手の今の私と未来の私が同じなんだったらそのままなんじゃないかな。
なるほどな。
いや、電話受けた記憶はないですね。 なんで電話するの最初ですね。いやー、混ぜる量は少し話したらいいんじゃないかな。
なるほど、さんな。
うん。
うん。誰かな？
まあ一番かな。
一番ね。
うん。
1しかないっていうね。
1しかないね。
まあ、
I can see why he considers this a fitting conclusion to the prison games. After all of the obsession and frustration, just to be told by someone you can trust that things are going to be okay. Wouldn't that be nice?
さあ、2009年8月になっておりまし
So what would it look like if Coda wanted to make a game about talking to someone other than himself?
た。さあ、なんかね、
うん。
なんか来ましたね。寒そうな。完璧に北海道みたいな感じのね。
To me, this environment is meant to represent Coda's puzzle, with the two doors on either side and a dark transitional space between.
こんにちは。
掃除。確かにね、俺の家もね、めちゃめちゃね、
You'll notice that the
汚いね。
quality of the art is a step up from previous games, including this new and improved chat system, which he started using from this point on. From here on out, he begins putting much more effort into the visual
さあ、どれに
quality
す
as
る
well.
かい？
And this particular game
いや、まあでも素敵だと思うけどな。
1
一
になるかい？
番かな。うん。うん。
でいい。おう。片付けたっていうか突っ込んでやるだけ。
そうだね。それは掃除とは言いませんでしょ。片付けたって感じだね。
ああ。それはベッドメイクね。だから出てきたね。
まあ一番かな。一番聞きたいのは。
一番。
うん。うん。
うんソファー？あ、ここか。いいね。
わあ、飲み物こぼすか。大変、大惨事。
ちょっと待って。よいしょ。どうしよう。
いや、まあ、行かれていいんじゃないの？
そのコメントいい？
まあ、俺も行かれてるしな。いや、気になるよ。
おや？血が汚れているな。
はい。
綺麗。 ああ、まあ確かにね、ちょっとね、
ま
黒
あちょっ
ずんでる感じのね。
ちょっと汚い。うん、
あー、き
ああ、白くなった。
あ
うわ、
ー、A 型が発狂しちゃうわ。ん
うん。
After the intense set of prison games, this house cleaning level almost feels like cleansing. It's the moment after a particularly difficult or traumatic experience where
さ
you just need
あ、
to
ど
let
れに
it sit and digest inside of you, and eventually cohere into something meaningful.
まあ2番。
2番。
うん。
うん。
I know that Coda really liked this game. Of all of his work, actually, this was the only one that he called me up to ask me to come over
バ
and
ス
look
タ
at.
ブがもっと汚くなっ
This
て
was
る
during
よ
a。period of a few months where he was like grossly happy all the time. Just walked around with a constant smile on his face.
うん。まともなことしか言ってる。まあ、言ってないっていう。
うん。
さあ、どれにしよう。
いや、でも会ったばかりの人には確かに言いづらい。こういうことは。
1位。
いや、話折られたよ。
I'm glad he made this. I'm glad he found some peace.
うん。
これ楽
Of
しい。
course, it can't last. The music stops, your companion is gone, it's time to leave. The door at the top of the hill is now open as well. Again, you can't stay in the dark space for too long. You just can't. You have to keep moving. It's how you stay alive.
でもこれがコーダ的にはなんか
うん。
楽しかったというか、なんか楽しい数ヶ月間の楽しい瞬間だったみたいな言ってたし、
そうやな
そうい。うものだったってことなんですかね。
あるね。
あるな。
Which is the whole point of the puzzle doors, right? That sooner or later you have to pick up
Ah!
and move. I really thought that was the point of it.
うん。
というわけで2009年の9月。
This one gets a bit goofy.
.なんか、やばい講習会の匂いがするけど。うん。
どうしてんだ。
About halfway through the game, the perspective shifts.
おう。
はあ。
おう。
And you play as the teacher. And suddenly, you discover that your teacher is just as bigoted and afraid as you are.
うん。
Oh, and also you can move around the classroom now.
Oh.
まあ、ちなみにこれワイガウは 打ってるだけ
I
だ
feel
け
like it's one of the most relatable experiences that you can have. To assume that some other person is perfect and totally fulfilled in every way, and completely miss all of the little flaws that make them painfully human.
ど。うんうん。
I think about this game a lot these days.
じゃあもう10年の1月になりましたね。
あだいぶ経ったね。
うん。
This one took a lot longer than all the others for Coda to make. It was 4 months between this and the last one.
確かにちょっと長か
That's
ったな。
twice as long as it took him to make any other game before this, and it's not like it's particularly complex, so I remember I found that a little strange at the time.
まあね、舞台の裏ってこんな感じなんですよ、本当に。
ほうほうほ
僕は何回かステージに立つ側だったからあれだけど、本当にね、こんな感じ
う。
よ。
うん。
ずずずね、こっからこう、演者さんとかがこの場所を通って右左にこう出てくるって
うんう。
いうん感じだね。おう。
結構立派だね。
動くっていう。
うん。
さあ、どれにします？
まあ最初は挨拶じゃない。いや、
いやにしよう。
うん。いやだって、会話が始まらない。
うん。さあ、どうしよう。
じゃあまあ大胆な告白でしょ、ここは。あなたが好きです。
大胆だね。
うんあうん。3番かな。
うんうん。ふん。怒られる。
うん。
なんかあるね。
は
なんかあるね。こっちってことなんですね。
うん。
おう。逃げないよー。
お
The game ends with this eerie premonition of what's going to happen next in Coda's life. The solution to social anxiety, to fears of having to perform and having to chase success, the answer for Coda is to withdraw,
おう。
to hide himself away. Which is what leads to scenarios like the stairs that slowed you down several games ago, where it just becomes harder and harder to access Coda's inner landscape because he keeps retreating. He just keeps backing away from possible connections to anyone other than himself.
うん。
To be honest, I didn't consider it very healthy when I first played this game.
Hmm.
You know, it looked to me like he was trying to justify the idea of just disconnecting yourself from the world. And that wasn't what I wanted for him or for his games. Because I feel like a lot of his games are inviting me to connect with this person, to bring him closer. But what can you do? After this, Koda went off and took another 5 months to make a new game.
Hmm. らしいですよ。僕じゃあ目つぶってやるので、見ててくださいね、これね。どうしたんだ。
ああ。
You should probably open your eyes if you haven't already. It's pretty much
世界
impossible
芸
to
術家
solve
の言われ
otherwise.
て。
And there is
さあ、トレーニングするんだ。急げ、急ぐんだ。目の前の物体が迫ってきているぞ。
うん。
早くするんだ。
あれある街灯。
選択肢を見るんだ。右下に出てるぞ。選択肢を選ぶんだ。
いいね、街灯あるね。
早く答えるんだ。あー。選手どうすれば。右下に選択肢があるぞ。お米。
ワンチャンミュートなってね。あれ、
不要になっててミュートになってる説あった。
なんか、舞台の途中ぐらいからミュートを
マジで
なってた。
マジで
見たのか。うん。
ああ。選択肢を選ぶんだ。僕3回か4回くらい言ってた。選択肢を選ぶんだ。
まあでも、選ぶとしたら2番じゃない。まあ、目閉じてるはずだから選べるかわからんけど。
早く答えろ。
まあ1番で。
ああ。
ああ。
Alright, let me explain how you're supposed to do this. On either side of the room are elevators, which go up to an upper
う
level.
ん。エレベーターが両側にある。
Walk over to the person who's standing there, and then select dialogue option number 2.
おー。
おー。
ばー。で、2番ね。おう。止まった。あ、ここは
Like
ちょ
I
っ
said, I
と。
was getting concerned. First off, he's never been this explicit in his work about exactly what he's thinking. So, where's that coming from?
そうだよ。超ストレー
But
ト。
then, even weirder, his work has potentially stopped being an outlet for him. Not like he's having trouble iterating on ideas, but he literally just can't think of new ideas anymore. And in person, he was being a lot more distant. Like, you know how sometimes a person will just deflect anything that you say in order to keep themselves disconnected all the time. It was that kind of stuff. Here was the point in my relationship with Koda where I really started to wonder if he needed my help in some way.
まあちょっとここは僕がやろうかな。
うん。
っていう。
なるほどね。
His games are going to get more desperate from here on out. After this game, it's almost 6 months before he finishes something new.
だいぶ制作期間が長いからって言ってる。
長くなってきたね。
なんか月3本ぐらいのペースで最初頑張って。
さあどうする？
うん、ここはどこ？
ここはどうする？
うん。
おー。
もう
どれにするんだい
1番かな。
？1番。
うん。
おお。
うん。
帰り道がない。なあ。
ああ。うん。
If the last game featured Koda talking explicitly about his creative
実
frustration,
際ね、クリエイターの苦しみってマジでこんなもんなのよ。
here's a friend whose work is exhibiting signs of struggle, frustration, anxiety, depression, even. And yet still he keeps
前がなん
making
か
it.
一時期2、3ヶ月くらい小説書けなかったけど、本当にこんな感じだったからね。
ああ、そうなんだね。そうなんか。
そうそう。
Because from my perspective at the time and just what I knew of him, this was a result of how isolated he was. He was in his own little bubble, just sitting at his computer all day, not really showing these games to anyone, not releasing them onto the internet, and so he didn't have anyone outside of himself to connect with. He had no outlet to ground himself on.
うん。
うん。
最後出しめて、
うちのドアを開ける。3だね。
これをそしたらそうだね。
You can't talk yourself out of loneliness. It doesn't work that way. You can't be the one writing both the questions and the answers. Then there's no movement. Then there's no circulation. If all of your anxieties are being channeled into your work, then if the work ever fails, you have no backup and you're just going to crash.
うん。
ちなみにここではですね、裏でですね、女の人が泣く声が聞こえております。
ああ。
おう。
うん。うん。
Seeing this game at the time that he made it, it looked really unhealthy to me. I was watching him do this to himself, and I hated it. I hated seeing him so trapped. It's like video games are not worth this amount of suffering. This is someone I really cared about. And I used to get so much joy out of seeing him create. For him to suddenly become angry and frustrated like this, it was the worst thing for me. I don't know. This is what I felt at the time. I don't know how else to explain it. I wanted it to stop more than anything. I had never felt so rotten. I needed more than I had ever needed anything for this to stop.
Hello. 刑務所来ましたね。いや、の人いましたね。
But it didn't
泣い
stop.
てた人ですねと。
After finishing this one,
あ
Coda takes another 7 months and comes up with a new game.
じゃあ11年の5月になってまいりました。
それから7ヶ月かかった。
機械。さあ、どれにしよう。
一番。いや、多いな。
And of course, it's the machine.
なんかこういうのよくあるよな。なんか、記者集まって、見てって、みたいな。
So now the work is becoming self-destructive. And I'll tell you, at the time that I first played this game, shortly after he made it, here's what I'm thinking to myself. I'm thinking that Code is stuck in his own head, and that it's having a very negative effect on him, and that all he needs to do is just start showing his work to people, to get some actual feedback on his games. It might get him out of isolation. And so, as I'm thinking this, I realized that I could be the one to initiate it. Because it would never occur to Coda to start actively soliciting feedback, so what if I did it for him? If he could see the difference it would make to have more actual conversations with other human beings, would that bring him out of his mental spiral? Would it give him confidence in himself? Would it bring meaning back into his work?
あ
ああ。
あ。うわー。
So I started showing Coda's work to people. I took this one, and the islands which you just played, the theater, the notes, the house cleaning game, and some of the prison escape games. I brought them to people that I knew and trusted. I asked their opinions. And the great part is that they really loved his games. You know, the point of it all was just to give him some external reference point, but they genuinely loved his work. There was nothing for him to be afraid of. Can you see why I felt like this was the right thing to do? Because it's the thing that I always feel like I need, to be told that my work is good, that I am good. When someone really connects with a thing that I've made, when they see themselves purely in my work, there's nothing that feels better. And I got to give that very same feeling to my friend. I did something... I really felt like I'd done something good, like I was a good person. I felt like there was a friend who was in trouble and was unhappy and maybe didn't like themselves, and I could fix it. If I could give him this gift, maybe I could fix the problem. When they told me how much they enjoyed his games, it was the best feeling. It was the absolute best feeling. It made me feel so happy. So beautifully, beautifully happy. So anyway, Coda finishes this game, and then really he just kind of takes off for a while. So this is June of 2011, and I didn't hear anything from him for several weeks, I guess. And so out of nowhere, one day I get an email, and it's got a private link to a new game of Coda's. This one is called The Tower, and to my knowledge, it's the last game that Coda ever made. So let's take a look.
最後に見た最後に作ったゲームらしいですね。11年6月。
うんうん。
そうですね。
そう。
おう。
And this is where I have trouble saying anything meaningful about Coda's work. Because more than anything else, the tower just feels distant. It feels like it's trying to distance itself from the world. It's a very cold game. This room actually has a maze in it. Except that all the walls of the maze are invisible. And then every time you touch one of the walls, there's this awful flashing and noise, so the experience is really miserable. The game goes beyond not being meant to be played, it actually seems to despise the player for trying to play it at all. But I do want to show you the rest of the level, so when you're ready to continue, press enter and I'll put a bridge over the maze.
おう。
おー
ほっあー
And to be fair, it's not like this is the first game that's needed some modification to be playable. Like the house cleaning game. You know, that one used to actually loop the cleaning chores and you just cleaned a house forever. I had to cut it off so that you could exit the house and the game would actually end. But that game had an idea that it was actually trying to communicate. What's the deeper idea behind the invisible maze?
お
だからね、
The only way past this challenge is to randomly guess the 6-digit code. Like the invisible maze, it's frustrating to me, because it's the opposite of everything else that Coda has made. It doesn't encourage thought or engagement. It doesn't ask anything of me, except a lot of my time. If I could have reached him during this time, then maybe I could have asked him, but I couldn't. I still don't really understand why this is here. I'll put the code on the ground for you here, though, so that we can move on.
答え下に出るっていうね。
出てるね。
よいしょ。行き過ぎた。おお。お。
も
The switch to open this door is actually on the other side of the door, meaning that it's literally impossible to solve from this side. So even if you somehow brute forced your way through the first 2 challenges and you got to this point, there's actually just no way to progress.
う、うん、
And it's scary for me, the idea of Coda cutting himself off entirely, just saying, you know, that's it, that's the end of the conversation, not giving me any way to fix the problem. I feel like a failure, I guess, when I can't fix the problem. But I can open this door for you, so let me do that.
開けたね、無理やり。
Was I a failure for not understanding this game? I mean, I don't know why I would be. It's not like everything needs to have a solution, but I feel it somehow. I feel like I failed, and I don't understand why. I remember, it's June of 2011. I'm playing this for the very first time. And as I'm playing, I'm thinking to myself, I don't know this person. I have no idea who this person is. It wasn't the guy I knew, it wasn't my friend. I had come to so many conclusions from looking at all of his work up to this point, and then suddenly none of them... I had been trying to, though. That was the thing. For years I was trying to get to know him, to understand who he actually was and what he stood for. I asked him so many times to please just tell me what his games mean to him. I asked him please to tell me what the 3 dots mean. And he wouldn't. I just felt so strongly that if I could have connected with him, that if I could have somehow made his work my own, that I would finally be once and for all happy. It was that I needed to see myself in someone else. I needed to be someone other than me. But he stopped and left, and it felt somehow like I had failed. Where did I screw up? I'm the reason that you stopped making games, aren't I? It's because of what I did. I poisoned it for you. I don't think I ever told you this, but when I took your work and I was showing it to people, it actually felt... it felt as though I were responsible for something important and valuable. And the people who played them, they treated me like I was important. They really listened and cared about what I had to say. Even though I was showing your work, I felt good about myself. Finally. For a moment, while I had that, I liked myself.
うん。
うん。
And then you stopped. And I didn't have anything left to show people. I just had to be with myself. And as soon as that happened, there was no feeling at all. Nothing. Less than nothing.
だいぶだね、病的に多分はちょっと。
うん。
I'm afraid that I did something really stupid because I don't like myself.
うん。
は
That's why I'm releasing this collection of your work, is because I haven't been able to find any other way to reach you. I've tried everything. And so a part of me has hope that if I put this compilation out into the world, and if I put my name on it, that maybe enough people will play it so that it'll find its way to you, so that I can tell you that I'm sorry. I know I screwed up. If I apologize to you truly and deeply, will you start making games again? Please, I need to feel okay with myself again. And I always felt okay as long as I had your work to see myself in. I mean, is something wrong with me? Because I know that I did an awful thing, and I'm doing it again right now. Like, I'm showing people your work, but I can't stop myself from doing it. That's how badly I need to feel something again. Like I'm an addict. There has to be something wrong with me. Can I apologize? What if I tell you I was wrong? Will that work? Will that fix it? I don't know. I don't think it will, but there's nothing else that I can do. Just tell me what you want. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please, start making games again. Please help me. Please give me some of whatever it is that makes you complete. I want whatever that wholeness is that you just summoned out of nothing and you put into your work. You were complete in some way that I never was. I want to know I want to know how to be a good person. I want to know how not to hate myself. Please. I'm fading, and all I want is to know that I'm going to be okay.
というわけで終章でございます。
はあ。
駅ですね。
うん。
すごい綺麗な豪勢な駅ですね。
そうだね、なんかヨーロッパ系だね、なんか。
中世にありそうな感じのね。
うん。
More love, more praise, more people telling me that I'm good. Always more. It's like a disease. Solution.
おお。
うん。
I guess if someone had told me ahead of time that he just really enjoyed making prison games, maybe I wouldn't have thought he was so desperate. I wouldn't have told so many people that he was depressed. Maybe he just likes making prisons. Even now, the disease is telling me to stop. Don't show people what a shitty person you are. They'll hate you.
お、
If I knew that my life depended on finding something to be driven by other than validation, what would that even be? It's strange, but the thought of not being driven by external validation is unthinkable. Like, I actually cannot conceive of what that would be like.
さあ、この間に入っていきます。
うん。
What now?
ちょっと待ってね。よいしょ。い、
I think I need to go. And I'm sorry, because I know that I said that I would be here and I would walk you through this, but I'm starting to feel like I have a lot of work to do. I have a lot that I need to make up for. And so I'm just gonna... Okay.
Mm.
青い空だね。
そうだね。
青いね。
うん。
なんかあるね。
あるね。
お、意味ありげな穴あるね。
うん。
なんもないね。
うん。
降りただけやね。お、駅戻ってきたね。
うん。
でもなんかちょっと違うね。
違うな。
なんかあるね。
なんかあれね。
なんか見覚えのあるものがあるね。
うん。
なんかあるね。
あるね。まあ、浮くわな。
まあ浮くよな。
まあ、浮くわな。
うーん。
うーん。
綺麗だね。
うん。
Turn back, turn back from this cave.
というわけで、
うん。
You said, let me prove that I'm
まあ、これが
brave. Let me
The
keep
Beginner's Guide というゲームなわけなんですけれども、まず君の感想を聞こうか。
the cave
あ
close
ー。
and miles.
なんて言ったらいいのかな。なんか、
You are so tired,
う
but
ん。
I know
一言で
that
ま
you're
とめるのはすごい
strong.
難しいんだけど、
So turn back, turn
なんて言ったらいいのかな。マジで。いや、なんかいろいろあるんだけど、
うん。
うん。
まあ、じゃあちょっと僕の話をしようか。まあちょっと、
うん。
まああまり結構クリエイターに近いところは、正解とかはないんだけども、まあ
うん。
僕が思いそうなことを、まあ選択をしたのだけども、
はい。
まあこのゲーム、まあ中で言ってた、まああれ男性なんだけど喋ってたの。
うん。
あの人が、まあ途中でも言ってたけども、
うん。
あの、まあ、その、コーダはゲームを、まあ、公開したりとか手を加えたりしないでくれと
うん。
いう話をしてたんだけれども、まあ彼は結局それをやめないで、まあ出しちゃったわけで、今でも出しちゃってるわけで、まあ一番皮肉なのは、実はこのゲーム無料じゃないんですよ。
ああ。
うん、有料なんですよ。
ああ。
つまり
無料っ
彼は無
てこと
料で
は、
最初出してたはずなんだけど、それ
うん。
に自分のその思いとかを付け加えて、もう完璧に自分のものにして出しちゃってる。
うん。
まあ多分それはクリエイターの方は、やっぱね、 まあちょっと思うとこあるだと思うんだよ。その他の人の作品を自分のやつするっていう。
うん。
まあだけど、まあ人の作品をそうやって自分のお金にしちゃうっていうのは、まあいいことではない
うん。
から、まあ結構そこに関しては批判する人は絶対出てくると思うんだよね。絵描きさんっていう
うん。
が見れば、絵描きさんとかそういうクリエイターが見れば。
うん。
ただ、あれの場合は、まあ利用したことはないんだけど、人の
うん。
やつで何かをしたわけはないんだけども、
うん。
少なからず喋ってた人の思考になってたの時がちょっとはあるのね。
うん。
クリエイターというかまあ小説書いてて。
うん。
人のためにやったと思ったら、ただの迷惑だったっていうのもあったり、自
はい。
分がこうしようと思ってやってたことって実はその自分の自己肯定感が低くて、これをやればいいだろうみたいな、
うん。
いいんだろうみたいなことを言ってたら、あの、まあ、嫌われてたと。まあ、誰からも嫌われてたみたいな。
うん。
まあ、そう。僕はだからね、まあ、ちょっと基本見てなかったのよ、今日。っていうのも、やっぱり、喋ってた人の話はすごい
うん。
わかる。ただ、最後のあの展覧会でのコーダからの彼に対しての言葉、
うん。
やっぱあれもすごい僕はわかるのよ。どっちの言い分も。
うん。
いや、コーダが、もしかしたらコーダはああやって自分のゲームを銃で壊していたけれども、
うん。
実は違う意味があったのかもしれない。ただ、喋ってた人の中ではコーダがどんどん病んじゃってると思ってたから、
うん。
やべえっていうので、彼に何も言わないで出しちゃったと。
うん。
まあ、もう彼もね、喋らない人だったから、きっと聞いても喋んなかったとは思うんだけど、
うん。
意味なんかは。
うん。
そう。で、もしかしたら最初からコーダは彼のことが嫌いだったのかもしれないしね。
まあ、そうだね。
うん。っていう、そういういろいろがある
うん。
という話でござってですね。
はい。
まあ、そう。ビギナーズガイドって、まあ、名前ではあるんだけれども、
うん。
あ多分ね、やっぱその二次創作なんかもそうなんだけど、
うん。
最初はやっぱ好きで始めるのよ、みんな。
うん。
僕もそうだけど、
うん。
物を描くのが楽しい、絵を描くのが楽しい。まあ人によっては、描いた絵を褒めてくれる人がいたから、それが嬉しくてやってたっ
うん。
ていう人もいる。ただ、絶対どっかで壁には当たるのよ、そういう人も。
うん。
作品が伸びないとか、
うん。
いろいろ。それこそコーダがまあ、自問自答してるようなところは満たせなくなってしまったっていうところらへんとかね。あれは本当にそういう感じなのね。
はい。
で、そこからなんとか這い上がって、またいい作品が描けるようになってきて、また新しいとこで、いろいろまたね、まあ名声ではないけど、まあ、またちょっと声が聞こえるようになると。
うん。
ただ、まあそこまでは遠いと。
うん。
で、多分コーダは本当にあそこはなってたんだろうなと。た
はい。
だ、彼が見つけた時にはもう喋ってた彼は 違う方向に行って、そこでもうどうしようもないぐらい差が開いてしまったと。
うん。
まあ、クリエイターはね、マジでね、そういう生き物なんですよ。多
あ、
分、なんていうの、承認欲求はなくても、
うん。
必ずどっかで生み出しにくくなる
うん。
ことがある。
はあ。
まあ、それをうまくやってる作品ではあるんだけども、結局彼がやってることは、コーダが望んでなかったことを結局やっ
うん。
て、なんならそこに自分のその感情と、
うん。
まあお金を発生させてしまってると。
うん。
きっとだからコーダは許すことは多分ないんだろうなって思ってしまうよね。
まあ、そうだな。
うん。
うん。
っていうね、まあそういうゲームなわ
うん。
けです。まあ全部で、チャプター17か。まあ本当にね、コーダが何を考えてて作ってたのか。本当は彼が言うように、
うん。
言うようなことで悩んでたのかもしんない。コーダが。
うん。
だけど、それを知った顔で、いろいろ言うんじゃねえっていうことだっ
ああ。
たのかもしんない。
うん。
まあそこはね、結局、まあもう連絡取れない。まあ僕も同じような感じにはちょっとなったことあるけど、
うん。
まあ、そんなにね、感じのゲームですよ。だから本当にね、
うん。
あの、表現しづらい、本当になんか、携わってることがある、その創作に。
うん。
の人にしか多分ちゃんと伝わらない
うん。
し、僕がじゃあ今これをちゃんとその言語化して、こういうとこ
うん。
ろが辛いんやよっていう話も多分僕はできない。
うん。
俺が今めちゃくちゃ泣きそうになっとるけど、それなんで泣きそうなのかっていうのは多分僕は言語ができない。
ああ。
うん、コーダの気持ちもわかるけども、喋ってるあの人のに気持ちもわかる。でもどっちが悪いかって言ったら、どうあがいてもやっぱりその、やらないでくれって言ってしまってる、言われたことをやってる。
うん。
彼が悪いと
うん。
人は思うんだけど、ただ
うん。
僕も一時期、その喋ってた人の側にいたからさ、
うん。
やらないでくれって言われたのを結局やってるから嫌われるんだけど、それで好かれないみたいなことを言ってた時期が僕にもあったからね、1年、2年ぐらい。
うん。
自分は他人の振り見て、我が振り直せみたいなことわざもあるけども、
うん。
本当にね、ちょっとそれはね、思ったし、
うん。
うん、まあ、本当にね、辛いかなと。まあ、デイビーか、デイビーか、あれが喋ってるおいちゃんの声。
そうそうそうそう。うん。
で、試合ならデイビーやって書いてたもん。まあ、本当にね、ただ、まあ、これの Steam のね、レビューもいろんなね、人のいろんな
うん。
レビューがあると。
うん。
まあ、興味のある人はちょっと Steam のレビューを見てみるとね、まあ、
うん。
結構人によって思うところは多いし、まあ
うん。
マジでそういうものを作ったことがある人じゃないと多分ただただデビューの公開話に付き合ってるだけなんだけど、
うん。
やってる人からすると人の一言のように必ずしも言えない。
うん
多分あれで俺はそんなことはねえと。もうまあ普通に創作して普通にやってきたと
うん。
言える人は多分少ないんじゃないかなとは思う。
うん。
そういうゲームです。
なんか、すごい難しかったな。難しいというかまあ、何もしてない人目線だからなのかもしれないけど。
まあ、難しいゲームだと思うよ。そのゲームというか
うん。
話の内容は本当に難しい。
うん。
うん。結局善と悪の話だから、善、
まあ、そう
そう、
だね。
性善説とかはやっぱり人によって違うからさ。
うん。
僕は良くも悪くもいろんな人と喋って、いろんな人の考えに触れてきて、
うん。
で、まあいろんな人に迷惑かけて怒られて、なんだかんだして、今に至るからさ。
うん。
うん。まあ、多少なりとも飲み込めるところはあるけども、やっぱそうでない人って多分ね、本当にただただね、公開話を見せられてるだけなのよ。多分今回は多分普通にまあ、僕がね、なんだかんだ横から挟んとったから、
うん。
まあ普通にその、クリエイターとしての目線って多分まあ、ちょっとはごめんも見れたと思うけども、これで本当に俺が
うん。
何も言わないで見てたら、ただただ、その、デイビーの公開話を見てて、終わ
うん。
りっていう。
うん。まあ、確かに作ってる人側が、どう、作ってる過程とか、作ったものに対しての思ってることとか、それに対
うん。
してやってほしいことしてほしくないことみたいな感覚は確かに何もやってない、その辺は作ってないとわかんない
うん。
から、う
そう
ん、
なのよ。
確かにそこは視点変わるかなっていう感じだよね、確かに。
そうそうそ
その、うん、
う。うん、それ
なんか、
こそね、
うん、
スチームのさっきのレビューに、まあ日本人もやっぱ何人もやってるからさ、
うん、
まあ書いてる人もいるんだけども、
うん、
まあ、的を得た言葉が、まああって、
うん、
ちょっと待ってね。ツイッターとか、
うん、
YouTube とか、
うん、
ああいうところにいる面白い人たちで、
うん、
いつでも面白いわけじゃないよと。
うん、
結局は、まあ、いろいろと考えて、そういうふうに立ち回りを、まあ、してるだけであって、それが
うん、
全てじゃないよと。
うん、
もう僕は、YouTube っていうか、まあ、Twitter でもそうだし、まあ、こういう配信もそうだけど、僕は基本的に思ったことをそのまま言っちゃうからさ、
う
あんま
ん、
り表裏ないんだけど、本当はやった方が
うん、
好かれるんだろうけども、めんどくさいからさ、それは。うん。でもやっぱ裏側を知ってないと、この話の辛さがわかんないっていう。
コーダサイドの
うん。
じ方とかは、そういう
ああ、
それわかんない。
うん。
ただデイビーが良かれと思ったことが、コーダ嫌がってましたっていうだけになってしまうから、
そうそう。ちなみにね、ちょっとね、ああと思ったレビューが一個あって、コーダは実在するだろうか。私はそれは人ではないと思っていますって書いてるけど。下手しデイビー自体かもしれないね、コーダがね。
うんうん。
コーダが自分でゲームをあれ全部作ってて、長い間作ってて、で、後々将来自分が出して、でもやっぱなって、まあそこでいろいろなんか言われたりなんだりして嫌になって、でもやっぱり出したいからっつって出したっていう可能性もあるのか。そうか、その思考はなかったな。同じ一説。ああ、まあね。まあ僕はだから前も言ったけど、クリエイターの人にはやってほしいなと常々思いはするんですが、いや本当にこれ多分ゲーミング PC じゃなくてもできるからね。そんなゲームですございます。今いくらかな。今は980円。まあね、難しいゲームです。
難しかった。
うん、難しいよ。本当になんか実際に自分がそういうなんか別に何でもいいけど、ものを作って人に見てもらうっていう活動をしたことがないと、まあ想像つきにくい世界だからな。だからね、まあ簡単に言うと、本当に、チャンネル登録者数が1000万人いて、もうはじめ社長がめちゃくちゃ泣いたっていうのが多分一番わかりやすいのかな。うん。みんな1000万人大変だったんだろうなとか、大変だったよねみたいな思うけど、多分、その思ってるやつの1万倍ぐらいもっと大変だから、うん。やっぱ表に見えてることがね、全部じゃないってことですよ。だから僕は常々言ってるけど、本当にクリエイターの人にはちゃんとお金を払わなきゃいけないと思うし、俺は。現に僕は小説いつも誰かしらに絵を頼んでるけど、ちゃんとね、払ってるからね。やっぱ時間かけて書いてもらうしさ、そういう話です。ちょうど2時間くらいになりますのでね、今日はこんなところで終わろうかなと思いますわ。
はい。
はい。そんなわけで。まあ、ちなみにもう僕はアンインストールしました、あのゲーム。
そうなんです
はい。喋ってる間にアンインストールしました。もう多分一人でやるゲームではないからもう知ってるし。まあちょっと気になった人というか、もうちょっとちゃんとゆっくり見たいなって人はやってください。まあそんなね、高いゲームではないんでね。そんなわけで、お疲れ様でした。
お疲れ様です。